So today is June the 29th, and I'm about to go on my daily run. What is that? You're going on another run today? You say. Those of you who understand that the video you watched that also said it was June 29th already indicated that I did more than my daily run. Yeah, it's actually true. What I'd like to do today is to earn the remaining portion of the miles required to get my virtual badge for the Garmin. I think it's stage 2 walking and also stage 2 running. And I believe it was something like you had to walk 30 miles, and for the running you have to run like 62 miles, something like that. But to accomplish this task has taken quite a bit of my time since I hadn't formerly been an avid runner. It takes a while to build up to those distances. Like today, for an example, I ran over 8 miles, and I could have gone further, but just to kind of keep things reasonable and make sure that I'm getting a little bit of rest in between some of these efforts, I ended up going 8.07 miles and 8.04, something like that. Whatever the distance was, it was my second longest run ever. The first time I attempted that distance, I was on a treadmill, and I was coming up on similar circumstances where I wanted to complete a certain number of miles in order to achieve the same thing, earn a virtual badge. It's not even a big deal, whether I get the badge or not doesn't matter. It's just some extra queso on the equation, you know what I mean? It's extra cheese on the day that I'm having. It's like, I'm not on social media generally. I am on this platform where you're watching this video, and I consider this a little bit different than social media. On this particular platform, it seems like the communication is pretty much one way. It's very entertainment based, and it's also algorithm driven. And so anyone who's talking about things like sustainability, self-control, and trying to do something by actually changing their basic diet, garbage in, garbage out, right? To express what it takes to take self-control and to heal thine self, to heal thyself, generally takes a balanced nutrition approach. It really just takes a little bit of effort, a lot of curiosity, like from a childlike perspective, and then a lot of instinct. We know what's good for us. We know what treats us right. We know who loves us. We know where that nourishment comes from. And in a lot of cases, people are taking nourishment without actually maybe also satisfying the supplemental requirements. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of people taking from the pot, taking from the earnings that this great nation has to offer, that all this global ecosystem has to offer. But to put back into the pot sometimes requires having energy that's not earmarked by all of the entertainment value-based opportunities. Let's call them opportunities. We have opportunities that we can miss. We have a lot of missed opportunities, potential. For an example, I can miss the opportunity to earn these badges. I can miss the opportunity to be out in nature during the point in time when the transition of heat transitions from super hot to, boy, it's time for the wildlife to come out. You hear me? So right now on the vehicles, the temperature on the thermometer that I have, the digital thermometer, it's reading 100 degrees. So I'm about to go out and do this as it's pretty warm in the day. This is my second run. The anticipated amount of distance that I need to put in is 3.1 miles. That's almost a 5K. In the beginning, that was my goal. I wanted to be able to pull off a 5K. Well, I already did that today. I did a 10K today, and then some. And I know that a 5K is pretty simple, at a low speed under a certain heart rate. And so for that reason, yeah, I'm going to go take on a second run today. This bonus video is brought to you by Plant-Based Energy. For anyone who's suffering from any kind of pain, any kind of let's call them adversities. Anyone suffering from any kind of adversities, from anything that you can think possible to overcome. Some things are impossible to overcome, but for certain things, like let's say for an example, early onset type 2 diabetes, for things that my cousin, for an example, recently passed away from, things like that, that is something that just a little sprinkle of self-control could have helped. And for whatever reason, when we talk like this, even in our own families, we're shunned. Some people call this being a chosen one. It has nothing to do with being chosen. The way that the world is programmed, everything that we're programmed to appreciate and to actually talk about is so different from the things that we can tend to generally entertain ourselves with for long enough to hear a message that says, I didn't think about the tie-in between spirituality and eating great, and also, this power, the power of the sun. I never thought about the example of what it was to go through this energy sharing process until I heard it from someone for the first time. That cat up the road was pretty smart. They're still pretty smart. That cat up the road does a lot to bring awareness to this exact same basic variable that I'm talking about. The basic variable of all of this is that we have the opportunity every day to do something, to celebrate life with one another. And we also have the opportunity to just continue to blindly follow where everyone else is leading, recognizing simultaneously we don't really have a lot of quality leaders. I don't mean that in an offensive way. What I mean it in terms of is that I'm passing it right now. All of the trash and all of the major advertisers are all represented on this one strip of road. All of them, including the healthiest hamburger maker place here in town that we have. We're so fortunate. We have even our fast food chains where I live are healthier. And I'm passing there's someone selling watermelons right now. That's what I powered myself with today. I had a watermelon blended drink that included lemon and beetroot powder. Now the beetroot powder is something that I added as a supplement. The beetroot powder has a high level of nitrates, and the nitrates allow your capillaries to basically open up, and all of the blood flow, the oxygen transfer that you're going to experience when you're doing something like running, talking, passionately, anything that you're doing is going to be enhanced by improving your blood flow. And the blood flow is not just going to improve itself. We have to put in the effort. So for all of you out there who are still listening, who are like, wow, that was really amazing, you did this many miles, whatever. This is the second run that I'm going to do today. And this is the second time that I'm going to be sharing, because sharing is caring, sharing the concept that self-control is the same as wellness and conservation. Wellness is basically the foundation of being able to do anything. If we're unwell, if we're at dis-ease, if we're not at ease, if we're at dis-ease, disadvantaged, if we're basically all caught up in the day that we're experiencing, we may never ever hear one another's passionate conversations saying, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me about this earlier? Someone has told us about this from the very beginning. And also there's a set of circumstances that has permitted a lot of other people to capitalize off of saying something entirely different. It's just so similar that it's almost unbelievable how profound a single change, even a secondary change to one's daily activities can be in the overall homeostasis of having absolute comfort in how much health we are able to generate, both for ourselves and to help others. So this bonus content it's still covering the same topic as the initial concept that I was referring to today. If we don't have the energy to help ourselves, how can we help anybody else? The problem in this particular era, though, is what if we have an abundance of energy? Where do we can't even hardly give it away. You know, people recognize it. Game recognizes game. But for whatever reason, we don't want to share sometimes. I want to share. You know, I'm an only child. When I played with toys with anyone, I always shared. I was still very much an only child, so that means I took care of the things that I had. If they broke, it was my fault. It wasn't because I loaned it out. I mean, you know what I mean? For the things that I really cared about. But in general, when I shared things, I noticed that the consideration for those things wasn't as great when the other person who didn't own this item took possession of the item. So, and that brings into the realm of conversation the word possession itself. You know, to take possession of something. If we don't care what we're possessing, if we don't care for what we're possessing, let's say we possess a spouse. If we don't care for what we're possessing, that is not going to yield any kind of a magnified significance in terms of joy and well-being in your life. Now, if it's something that has to do with a rift that is a spiritual rift, remember, everyone's at a different level. All we have to do is just basically have fun, you know, safely do what we're doing, and try to bring to light the conversations that our fathers sometimes have been too afraid to have. So for the deep thinkers out there, my God, thank you so much for subscribing. I'm honored. Thank you so much for helping to encourage the energy of well-being. It's absolutely powering me right now. I can see I have a clear vision of what it is that I'm capable of. And all of us have that spark of ingenuity that can make us so capable and so forceful, but where you don't even have to be forceful, you know? People want to hang out with people who are having fun. People want to have fun. It's a law of attraction is what it's called. But the reality is, if you speak your peace, if you speak about peace, if you try to talk about self-control, there will be people in your very circles who also benefit from these topics who will never share those insights. That has to do with self-preservation. We don't want to share something if we think we're going to run out, but you can't run out of joy. That's the main concept I want to prove here. Until next time, actually stay tuned for just a moment and I'll tell you exactly what I accomplished today at the end of this video, just like I did in the last video. So I ran a 5K, 3.11 miles, 107, but my device only measures to the second digit. So 3.11 miles in about 35 minutes. And in order to begin tackling tomorrow's work, I'm walking back the entire same distance to knock off some miles to earn that walking badge. Let's see if we see any wildlife between now and then. But all in all, I don't know if you saw that dragonfly. All in all, as you can see, I'm in the middle of nature. You'd be surprised at what you see out here. More than you see wildlife sometimes. So let's see if we see anything. Oh, you guys, this is so fragrant. If you knew how beautiful it smelled, you would understand why all these butterflies were here.
guys see that? More and more often, I seem to be capturing certain things at the right time, and people don't really want to see it. But there's a lot to see in this amazing place, and generally that includes one another. I've noticed a lot of families and a lot of people, individuals, just enjoying this trail system for what it is, which is an amazing resource and opportunity to restore our health. And you guys remember when families would hang out and do things together that were productive? It wasn't just going to sporting events, watching television shows that we all had in common. You remember when we used to do things together as families? Maybe we all do. Maybe it's just my family that's struggling with these concepts, but I know that my family here who are watching this aren't struggling with that. They understand the concepts and the value of nature. Could any of you tell what that bird was doing? Also, did you notice how I wasn't able to zoom in on the scene until after the parent had fled the situation out of concern for their safety? The baby bird, the fledgling, was begging for food. And I've noticed this pattern, but only when the feeders in my own backyard start to run empty. So here in nature, I've noticed more and more that the birds that are migrating through these areas are having a harder and harder time finding natural bird food. I mean, you saw the egret, I believe the tall white bird was. You saw the egret in the dwindling puddle of water that it was enjoying with its fledgling. Anyway, let's see what else we can see on this walk back. By the way, I've covered 1.34 miles in 27 minutes. So we're going at a pretty good clip. Should be back well before nightfall. All right, so the end result was in 59 minutes and 45 seconds, I completed 3.107 miles or 3.11 miles. So in just under an hour, I completed that 5K walking at a pace of basically over 1 mile a minute. I mean, 1 mile every 20 minutes. So I got back before nightfall. You'll see the amount of nature that I saw. And there were some things that I didn't see. And frankly, I don't know what is going to come out and not come out on this video. But what I do know is that I came out ahead because not only have I completed my running for the month a day early, but I am strongly positioned to complete my walking distance by the end of this month as well. So tomorrow I will complete my efforts to earn my virtual badges for the stage 2 Garmin walking and running objectives, and it's about it. I strongly encourage you, if you can walk 3 miles, start to pay attention to how long it takes to walk each mile and see if there's a consistency with or without hills. And then maybe see if you can power walk those same miles. I used to walk about 2 miles per hour on a graded course like this, where basically there were hills. But if I'm really booking it, I can walk 3 miles an hour. And as you've seen per my earlier stats, I run at about 4 miles per hour comfortably without having to breathe except for through my nose at a very controlled pace. So if you can power walk through a mile and then through 3 miles, you might want to see, can I run? And this will be a gradual process. Can I run about 3 miles? That really starts to change a lot of different things in people physiologically. Obviously, the fuel that we put into our bodies is going to have a lot to do with that as well. And as I've stated before, it takes the body days and days, weeks to regenerate those cells that are within ourselves. And so, especially if we've treated ourselves poorly for a long, extended duration of time, it takes a lot of time to draw out those toxins and to replenish those nutrients, that life that we have, with something that's actually living, like plant food, living organisms. And so for that reason, once again, I wanted to put together this video and wrap it up saying health is wealth and nature is nurture. And basically, if you believe me, you've already subscribed and you're doing your best to share this content when it strikes a chord with you. Until the next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.